It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Yes, this is Hardcore Grind, and we are here with the legend, one of the women that helped put the WNBA on the map, Miss Leslie Johnson. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate the shout out. It's been great. God's been good. I've had a great career, and I had some transition difficulties after my career, but we'll get into that.
Absolutely. So, I always like to ask about a goal moment, right? So a goal moment is when thought and execution come together. And a lot of times we have multiple goal moments in our life, right? But a lot of times we don't move our feet right away. We tend to be lukewarm when it comes to things that we want to do or we need to do. But we're very concerned and mindful of what other people need to do and how they need to pour into themselves and how encouraging we need to be. But we lack to do that for ourselves. I want to ask, the first question I want to ask, what was your goal moment? Because I want to go back to 94.
Okay.
Yes. So you were with Purdue. You guys had just won the first Final Four. What was that moment like for you?
It was a dream come true. My background before we got to the Final Four was the head coach of that team was a woman by the name of Lynn Dunn, who would go on and win a world championship as the head coach for the WNBA Indiana Fever. But she was my head coach who actually began recruiting me when I was in 6th grade. And so she was always saw my capabilities. And as I got to I became like the national freshman of the year, but I was also ranked the number 1 center in America out of high school. And I had a lot of colleges that recruited me, but I chose Purdue because Coach Dunn was always, by my side and was just loyal throughout. And so I always told her, I said, Coach Dunn, if I go to Purdue, I want to take you all the way to the Final Four. And she's like, Leslie, I really believe that you'll do exactly what you said. So it was not just like an accomplishment for sport, but it was also an accomplishment that I felt so good that I kept my word. I said I was going to do it. I felt like I could lead them to the ultimate goal of, reaching to the Final Four, and we did win the Big Ten championship and all those great things. But I kept my commitment. And I was able to be successful.
I love it. So then you went to 98. What was that moment like? Because when the WNBA started, it was only 8 teams, and that was in 97. So you were drafted in 98, right at the birth of this new woman's movement. That's what we're going to call it. When you entered in to the league, what was that like as far as your change from going to college and then now you're a pro athlete?
There was a lot of difficulty because I went from being I was a first-team All-American in college, and to go back just a bit from even where you started, when the WNBA began in 1997, you have to keep in mind that for decades before that, when I was a kid, I always dreamed to play professional basketball overseas because there was no WNBA. It was unheard of. And so when the WNBA formed, like you said, they formed with 8 teams. We had an influx of all of the players who once played in the Olympics, who were also first-team All-American athletes themselves, and, players who had been overseas for 10 to 15 years who now wanted to come back home and play in the WNBA. And then you had these college athletes like me, who at that time was coming out of Western Kentucky, who was also trying to get my way in. So it was very difficult to make it to the WNBA. And once I actually got in, I did not get drafted. I got added in midway in 1998 to the Washington Mystics. But when I came in, of course, it's bigger. They're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger. But, the thing I always like to highlight is just you have to have the right mentality to make it. It was a tough adjustment because in college, you have so much help and people, telling you what to do, and they kind of care for you in so many ways. But when you get to the pros, they expect you to get up and do your workouts. They expect you to, be self-motivated and get the job done. And so in some ways, it's kind of like a wake-up call. It's like, okay, I'm on my own. I need to get this right. And so you have to have the right level of maturity and have the right mindset to want to be successful if you're going to be, in fact, that successful in the league.
Absolutely. Now, what was your influence when you decided to make basketball your career? Who was your biggest influence? What was the thing that turned for you?
I love that question. I always chuckle a little bit because, growing up, you were either a Lakers fan or you were a Celtics fan. And so we didn't have, like I said, women's basketball, at least not professional women's basketball to watch on TV. We would watch the Final Four for the women once a year, and that was pretty much all we had. So we grew up, most of women, we grew up idolizing, the NBA. And so my father was a huge Lakers fan, and he just loved Magic Johnson. And although I ended up being a power forward, real strong, played the center position, they call me Baby Barkley, by the way. They call me the Charles Barkley of women's basketball because of my style of aggressiveness in the paint. But I actually grew up wanting to play because of Magic Johnson, his love for the game, his smile for the game, the way he encouraged his teammates. It just seemed so exciting. And I said, look at the Lakers with Showtime. I just want to be a part of that. Like, I want to enjoy, like, that spirit of basketball. It was something that I wanted to be a part of. And so, it all began. And I told my father, I said, I know you guys got other dreams for me, but I wanted to do everything basketball. And so from there, they saw my love for it. They saw me watching the games, recording the games, and giving play-by-play of what happened. And my father said, you know what? I'm going to surround her by everything basketball. And so that's what happened. When I was 11 years old, I played in AAUs, and at the age of 11, I was already a first-team All-American. 12, I was already an AAU All-American, and so it became a part of me. And I began playing basketball when I was 8 years old, and to fulfill my dream, when you're like, by the time I played in the WNBA, I'm like 24 years old. It was a long journey. And it was packed with emotions because playing basketball wasn't just like a sport. It was just part of who I was. It's how I associated myself. So, yeah, it was a lot of love for the game. Still have a lot of love for the game.
I love it. Now, you started 11 years old. you had to have a lot of discipline. What were some of your routines that you kept up along those years, and do you still keep some of those routines now that you're out of the sport?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It started with, and it still continues with prayer. And so I grew up with two parents that loved the Lord, and I was one of those kids that, we went to church. That was part of my upbringing. And I was blessed enough to have parents that said, nothing you can go outside and you can practice as much as you want to practice, but the power of everything that you want to become is in the Word. And so I began at an early age reading scriptures like I'm more than a conqueror. And I would study all these scriptures before I would go out there and play. And I would listen to the naysayers say that I was going to get all my shots blocked and all these crazy things. But I was so filled with scripture that said I was more than a conqueror, that I could do all things through Christ who strengthens me. My faith was always on 10. And so I would go out there and I would exceed expectations because I understood at an early age the power of scripture, the power of prayer, and the power of faith. And so I would say out of all things, not even the sport itself, but my faith has sustained me through it all. Through the ups, the downs, the good and the bad. There was my faith that brought me through.
And I want to talk a little bit about that. Did you find it difficult being a Christian or having faith and being in the league? Was there any type of struggle there with what you felt on the inside in the world that you were now in?
There was always a struggle. There was a struggle from the beginning. I think there's still a struggle now, that we are always on the battlefield, those that believe. Because, I can still recall being in middle school, because, again, that was my upbringing and became what I knew. I would go into my lunch cafeteria and, I would be reading the Bible during lunch in 6th grade. And people would say, well, that's strange. That's weird, But even at that age, I was always an aspiring athlete, and I was using the Word as fuel. But I looked strange. And I had people that would say, why are you reading the Bible? It's lunchtime. Read it on your time. As I progressed to high school, I never took the court without going back in the locker room, getting down on my knees and saying, Lord, I need your strength. I can't do it without you. And people would say, why are you going back in there? We're all out here. And then when I, made it to the pros, the one thing I will say is shout out to the fact that I believe that there was more support there once you actually got out of the university setting for faith, because we had a chapel and all of those some more supportive roles that were available to us that at a university that was not allowed to promote faith, didn't offer. So that was kind of actually refreshing by the time I got to the league that offer was there. But, I got to tell you, the WNBA is still just a portion of what happened with me and in life. Because then going overseas, I played in South Korea, I played in Turkey, I played in Portugal, Greece, Israel, some places that weren't all Christian, a Hebrew nation. It was some Muslim nations, some atheist nations. And, you still had to cling to what you knew and what you believed, but it wasn't always welcome. And so you had to find a way to still serve the Lord, even in spirit, if you couldn't even out loud. So there's always been some form of challenge from others when it comes down to faith. But I will say this, that it takes courage. It definitely takes courage to hold on to your value system, even when you seem a little isolated, that you're the only one that's seeking Him, maybe more stronger, harder than others. It makes you, look different. And you can say that for anything. When you look different, it opens up a conversation from other people. So you have to have courage. You have to be courage to be set apart sometimes, and definitely I want to make sure I say this out loud as well. I'm definitely coming from a space where I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. I don't claim to be completely holy and righteous, but I am faithful and I love God, and I do believe that love heals all things, conquers all things, and so that's how I live. I love others, and I keep the faith, and I keep on working hard every day of my life for better.
You better talk that talk, honey. Playing in the States and playing internationally. Well, what's the difference there for those that are listening and they may want to play overseas? What's the biggest difference you experience?
I think it's very important that your audience kind of know how things go with the WNBA and playing professionally overseas. That very few players are, and unfortunately, because there hasn't been a lot of growth with teams, although talent keeps getting better and better. So I want to connect that dot that if you make it to the WNBA and then you go play overseas, you can expect your salary to be a higher amount than those that never made it to the WNBA, and then they do get a contract to play overseas. So it's very important to make it to the WNBA if you can, because it is definitely going to influence how much money you make overseas. But with that being said, once you get over there and you're playing in Istanbul, Turkey, Muslim country where they pray 3 times a day, and I respected that every time that prayer was there. It was different from what I was from, and so you say, what's going on? And then you had to adapt. I've been in countries where the country was so poor, just traveling against teams in Yugoslavia where I seen so much sadness of kids, out there with no shoes on, asking for money, just as poor as it can get, and at a young age, a young adult, I think the life lessons that I've seen from overseas, out of all my experiences, have really helped influence the person that I am today. I really learned how to be grateful because it's like, nobody is over here speaking, English. Very few people are speaking English. And so I became isolated in some ways, I had to just find myself those years playing overseas, trying different food, respecting different cultures, respecting different religions. Also, some of the greatest lessons that I definitely received from being overseas is just learning how to just make it on my own, being independent. They were valuable lessons, but it was so different from America when you are, well, here's a positive one. When I was in Israel, it's something about them waking me up off a plane and saying, welcome to Jerusalem. So basketball is taking me to places and spaces that, most could only dream of. I've been in the Jordan River. I used to drive in my car, and it'd be like exit to Galilee, things that you can't believe. You're just like, what? There go Bethlehem, And so those things, it was like, okay, sometimes our parents, they're putting all this influence on you. They're putting you in church and all these things. But when I got there and I actually experienced it, I actually walked it, it became, as we say, it got real. And it was like, you know what? This place really exists. These things are really true. It's really real. It happened. And so I began to just see life quite differently. And I did a lot of growing up when I was overseas, for sure.
I love it. I love it. Now, the ability to have a voice, you have gone places and experienced things that the average basketball player has not experienced and possibly may not experience. That is fueled by a strong voice, which you have for your platform, and that's really powerful. What does that power mean for you?
It means responsibility, even if it does not appeal to everyone. And what I mean is my platform to quickly take you down my path, which is the basis to everything that I am now. Once I got done playing professional basketball, I came home and like so many athletes, I really want to say all athletes, there's a trauma. There's a trauma that happens because, like I told you before, I actually began playing when I was 8 years old. I retired from basketball at 29. So all my life, all I know is basketball. All I ever did was play in the gym. And when you wake up one day and it's over, and for many athletes, maybe they were waived, they were cut, that their career ended in a way that they did not foresee. With that comes a lot of emotional trauma. It's rejection. But it's also losing yourself because, again, you played basketball or you played a sport since you were 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And some people play till they're 35, 36, 37. I mean, just imagine that. And you're saying, well, who am I? What else am I good at? Well, what do I do now? And even with a degree, it doesn't help you because you've put your whole life into a sport. And so I was not immune to what almost every athlete goes through. I struggled. I ended up being extremely depressed after I got done playing basketball, and my story becomes very rare after that. And so I'm willing to, like many athletes are not, I'm willing to share my story because I know it's going to help and it's going to bless. And I've already been told in many instances that my story has saved other people's lives because when I got done playing ball.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
Like I said, depression just came all over me. I did not know what to do with that. And so I began drinking. And correction, I actually was drinking throughout because that was part of celebration. That was college. You drank when you won. Your teammates got together. You drank a lot when you lost. When I went overseas, you continued the drinking. And when I got done, I was drinking alone a lot because why? I had played overseas by myself where they didn't speak English, and I was always drinking alone. And so I looked up now, and I'm depressed, but my numbing was happening with the bottle. And so to fast forward a lot of things, I became a raging alcoholic. And, one day I flipped my car. I airborned that car. I didn't even have a seatbelt on. The rooftop was not on the brand new convertible that I had purchased. And for nothing but God's grace, I did not eject from the vehicle. The airbag ejected out, lodged me in, but I landed upside down with no roof on the vehicle, no seatbelt on, and I got a DUI because I was just that reckless. And also after sports, I went from a player that, like I said, I played like Baby Barkley. I played about 230, 225. I found myself 424 pounds after sports. And I want to repeat that. I once weighed 424 pounds after I got done playing. So I gained a tremendous amount of weight, and a lot of that worked together because of the alcohol abuse, which my abuse was mostly with beer and all those things, which really added calories. And then I found myself in a state of just wanting to quit. And 2 times in my life, I attempted suicide. And one was when I was 19, which is why I'm so passionate about all of us speaking to our kids, because it's not just the professional athlete when they don't make it. It's also watch your kid, because when they don't get a Division I offer and they've been playing since T-ball and the Division I offers don't come in, it's also your kid when they realize, man, I'm not going to get a college scholarship at all to play a sport. There's a level of trauma for them too. And so I just try to bring awareness that, it's difficult when you have such a love for sport, and when that sport career ends, to just tell everyone to watch out for kids, the adults, that when those careers are over, because I've seen it over and over and over again. Trust me when I tell you that all my friends, and I have a lot that are, former pro athletes, we all get together and we talk about what we went through. And it's horror story after one after another. But again, most are not comfortable to share their story. But because I went through so many trials, and I attempted suicide when I was 19, and by the grace of God, my best friend just happened to walk in after I'd taken all these pills and, did the Heimlich maneuver and brought me, vomiting on the floor and vomited it up. And then after, like I said, in my late 20s, I tried it again, all because of sports, because not knowing what I would do next, feeling like I was not enough. Why don't teams want me? Why didn't it end the way I wanted it to end? Just things that I look back now and I say, come on, it shouldn't have been that bad. But, again, nobody talked to me about being successful in what you do when you're no longer successful in that sport. I didn't have anyone who pulled me aside and say, you know what, your mental health matters. How are you doing? How are you coping? Are you okay? If anything, back in the 90s, people, you're crazy to be depressed. What's wrong with you that you don't want to come out of your room? It was like taboo. And so with that said, I share my story because, I was a raging alcoholic, once weighed 420 pounds, flipped my car with a DUI because I was, like I said, such an alcoholic, depression and everything. And then I've got to even throw in, I had the loss of my sister. My sister passed away, who was my best friend. She was 41 years old. And so we all know what that's like when you grieve for someone who has crossed over, transitioned in. And so I had the weight of the world, I felt some days, on my shoulder. But let me tell you, I'm not afraid to testify and just tell people, listen, my bottom was when I did lose my sister. And when my sister was sick, I said to myself, all right, are you really going to be so drunk that if she calls you, you can't even come to her help? The person you love more than anybody in this world, are you really going to do that to her? And so I made up my mind over 11 years ago now that I will never drink again once I learned that my sister was terminally ill. And so it's been over 11 years that I've remained sober, and I turned my life around. I got that weight off. I'm not where I need to be, as they say, but I thank God I'm not where I used to be. And I'm out here and I'm mobile because I lost over 150 pounds. And I'm not depressed, and I'm not an alcoholic, and I'm not suicidal. I am grateful. I am grateful to be alive. I feel like a survivor from the trauma of sports, not working out or sports ending. And so that's my calling. That's my passion now. It's like We've heard the stories. I do my best not to call out too many names, but there are so many athletes, unfortunately, that we've watched go through depression just like I did. There are athletes who actually succeeded and committed suicide after sports. These tragic stories are everywhere. There are so many athletes that, just like me, they gained tremendous amount of weight. And I'm just doing my part as a survivor to say, you know what, the roads that I travel don't have to be yours. Avoid these traps. Get yourself some help. Talk to someone. Guess what? It's okay. It's plenty of us that are done playing sports. But you know what? Now there's a sisterhood. There's a brotherhood. Seek your sisterhood. Seek your brotherhood. Trouble don't last always. Just keep living. It gets better. So that's what I'm doing. That's what Hushed No More is. That's what my company is that I started, Hushed No More, because I think that silence kills. And that's what happened to me. It's just that I grew silent in that depression, and now I am Hushed No More. I'm not going to remain silent. I'm going to testify, and I'm going to talk about it, and I want to bring awareness because, again, I know that I'm not the only one who feels lost, not just after sports, but after a career or when things don't go the way that you expect. And so, I decided to get clean, and from that moment, I've never looked back. Everything in my life has turned for the better ever since I decided that, you know what, I'm not going to use alcohol as my crutch. And nothing against anyone else, by the way, that drinks alcohol, but my golden rule is this: know thyself. Know thyself. If you have a struggle for alcohol, then you may not be a person that can drink it if it's going to lead you to overdrink. Just like we all know, the same thing with weight. Me and my sweets that helped get me to the 424-pound marker. I had this crazy thing. I could sit there and just eat a whole pie. Like, who does that? But I did. And so to this day, I avoid pies. It's nothing wrong with someone else eating a piece of pie, but I avoid it because I know that's a trigger for me. And so we have to know thyself. And so for me, I've stayed away from it because I've decided to be the best that I can be. And I've decided to serve in whatever capacity that is, not just, for others. But, I truly believe with all of my heart that this is the area that God wants me to serve. I don't want my story to be in vain. I'll put it that way.
Absolutely. I love it. Now, if you had the power to make changes in the WNBA and in the NBA, what changes would you make?
That's a really loaded question. Great question. I think there's several because, of course, you have the athletic standpoint, and that'll be light because I can tell you as a former power forward center, they used to tear them up on the inside, like contact, bang, bang, bang down there. To watch all the centers shoot three-pointers, yeah, I definitely would love to have a conversation about that, like the game itself going away. Like, it really obsessed me. But, especially, with Shaquille O'Neal, it's like, man, he wouldn't have a job in this day and era. But anyway, I will have a conversation about that. But when it comes down to the mental health standpoint, I think that both leagues are doing better. And that's the good news. They are doing better, but better does not equal success. I think that they had to continue to push the bar. They had to continue to do outreach. They had to continue, because one of the things I know as an athlete, athletes, they don't, you could say, well, we have mental health therapists. They're right here. But athletes, when you play ball, there's a little bit of a bravado that goes along with a lot of athletes. And I just like to, let's take Michael Jordan, for example. If Michael Jordan was going through some mental health issues because he was struggling, he had some trauma after he got done playing because that was all he knew, and he had some difficulties walking away from the sport. And let's say, his wife is like, what's wrong with you, Mike? You don't talk like you used to. You just look a little more sad. Michael Jordan's not going to say to his wife, you know what? I think I'm going through some depression after sports.
Right.
It's something within us because there's some ego there, right? And so we don't tell our wives. You don't tell your husband that, I think I'm slipping a little bit here. So you don't tell your spouse. Not alone are you going to tell a professional that you're going to stop at a clinic that says mental health or psychiatry, and think that person is going to just walk in and get themselves the help they need. And so I have really opened up a lot of conversations about this because, like I said, you got to go to them. They're not going to come to you. Most athletes do not have it within themselves to vocalize and say, I'm going through it. I'm really having a hard time. I don't know what to do. I'm mad. I'm angry that I was cut and I don't know how to get over it. They just don't. Instead, you just see them drinking more. You see them excessively eating. You see them, you see all these cases of domestic violence. I'll tell you another one. You see a lot of babies popping up. The guys are out here, because the sport is over. Guess what? There's no more adoration. And this is a person who's had adoration their whole life. Even in middle school, high school, they were the star player, the star athlete, and they've gone through decades of adoration. All of a sudden, when it's over, there's no more adoration. You're not on TV anymore. You're not in the newspaper anymore. But you know who will give you adoration? Different women in different area codes, and they'll tell you still fine, and you got it going on, and you're a good-looking man, or you sexy or whatnot. And so I really like to open up those conversations as well, because I'm like, that's exactly why. You look up and there's so many kids out here, and then guess what? It's a vicious cycle, because then these former athletes get a lot of kids. They're not to women they're not married to. And guess what? That's going to set up financial difficulty. So now they have their money here, and so then once your money start going away, then you're really going to be depressed. Once you was a millionaire and all of a sudden you're broke. So all of these things play into my whole point that we have to do more. We have to talk about what to expect after sports. We have to tell our athletes that we are way more than a ball or a catch. We have to do more things to empower our people away from athletics. And so that's the work. And it's a lot of it that needs to be done. But it has to be done because otherwise people judge themselves and who they are based on how far they go in a career. And it's very unfortunate because, of course, we're all so much more than that, than a sport.
Yes, I love it. So what's next? What is next for Leslie Johnson? You have your company. You are a mental health advocate. You are a legacy now. What is next?
Oh, wow. Isn't that beautiful? It's a beautiful space to be in when sometimes, you just trust God for it all. I tell people, I say, I've got things. I have strategic goals that are written. But ultimately, I'm not in control. Anything could happen at any point in time, good, bad, a great blessing, or unfortunately, this thing called life, somebody could get sick and it could just change our paths at any point in time. But I will say this. For me, I just want to help. It's truly in my heart to serve. That's what's left. I feel like to whom much is given, much is required. And although I don't feel like, God is through with me yet, but I do feel like, I'm 48 years old. I've had a chance to play basketball all over the world. I reached my dreams of making it to the WNBA. Like you touched on, I went to the Final Four. I won championships, conference championships. I had a very successful Department of Corrections career at an executive level. I have, I currently now, I work for Nike at Nike headquarters in Portland, Oregon. And so I've really had an opportunity to check off a whole lot of boxes off my list of things that I want to do and become. But my company, Hushed No More, that's my heart. As they say, that's my baby. Because we can find happiness, and I found a lot of happiness. I found a lot of joys in the midst of all that heartache and grief and things that I went through. But one thing that is very difficult to find, and that's fulfillment. To be fulfilled is totally different from joy and happiness. And so when I get on those stages and I share my story and I see people cry, and I had a vet once come to me and say, I really struggled with suicide. But listening to your story today, hearing your passion, I will never think like that again. That's fulfillment. That's fulfillment. I know that something I said, something that I did is going to change the course of someone else's life for the better. It doesn't get any better than that for Leslie Johnson. And so it's severalfold because like anybody else, I want to continue to travel. I want to continue to speak. I want to continue to help other athletes in sports. I do a lot of things. I'm a parent of 2 adopted boys as a single parent. And so my weight gets heavy. But still, above all things, for me, Hush No More is my heart. It's my heart because it is my story. And I know that story is going to bless someone else, save someone else, make somebody else better, make somebody else greater. And you know what? It's good enough for me.
I love it. I love it. We so appreciate you sharing your time, space, and energy with us. I want you to shout out all of your social media where everybody can get in contact with you and any events that you may possibly have coming up.
It's all about Hush No More. You can go to the Hush No More website. That's Hushed with an HUSHED. Make sure you add on the D, Hush No More. You can go on my website, find my contact information. You can also go on everything Hush No More on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. You will see the work that we're doing. So I just hope that I could be an impact and a help to someone out there. And always love and blessings.